Listen carefully, because what you're about to hear is not just another horror story. This is something far more disturbing. Something rooted in reality. A place that exists, right now, where people don't go to explore, they go to disappear. Deep in Japan, at the base of Mount Fuji, lies a forest so dense, so silent, that even the wind seems afraid to pass through it. Locals call it a place where compasses stop working, where sound gets swallowed, and where people who enter don't always come back. But here's the part that makes this story truly terrifying. Some believe this forest is not just a place of tragedy, but a gateway. A connection to something darker. Something older. Something that people on the internet have started calling the real ninth circle. If you are new to this channel, make sure you subscribe right now, because the stories we uncover here are not just meant to entertain, they are meant to stay with you. Tonight, we are diving deep into one of the most cursed places on Earth, uncovering the truth, the legends, and the disturbing theories behind Japan's infamous suicide forest, and the chilling idea that it might be connected to something far beyond human understanding. The forest is known as Aokigahara. At first glance, it doesn't look like anything unusual. Tall trees. Thick vegetation. A quiet, almost peaceful atmosphere. But that silence, that stillness, it's not calming. It's oppressive. People who have entered the forest often describe a strange feeling, like being watched, like the forest itself is aware of their presence. And then there's the darkness. Because the trees grow so close together, sunlight barely reaches the ground. Even during the day, parts of the forest feel like twilight. As you go deeper, the world outside begins to fade. No city sounds. No birds. No wind. Just an unnatural silence that presses in from all sides. But what truly gives Aokigahara its terrifying reputation is not the environment. It's what people come here to do. For decades, this forest has been known as one of the most common places in the world for people to end their lives. Every year, authorities recover bodies from deep within the forest. Some are found quickly. Others are never found at all. And because of this, something changed. Over time, stories began to spread. Not just about death, but about what lingers after. Visitors have reported hearing whispers when no one is there. Seeing figures moving between the trees, only to vanish when approached. Some say they felt something following them, matching their steps, just out of sight. There are even reports of people entering the forest with no intention of harming themselves, only to feel an overwhelming urge, a sudden, unexplainable pull, as if the forest itself was influencing their thoughts. This is where the urban legends begin to take a darker turn. Online communities started connecting these experiences to something much deeper, something rooted in ancient beliefs and modern conspiracy theories. The idea of the ninth circle. In classical literature, the ninth circle is described as the deepest part of hell. A place reserved for the worst kind of souls. A place of absolute darkness, isolation, and despair. Now imagine this. A real place on Earth, where people willingly walk into isolation, into silence, into darkness, never to return. Some believe Aokigahara is not just symbolic of the ninth circle, but somehow connected to it. A gateway. Not a physical doorway, but something psychological, or even spiritual. According to these theories, the forest acts like a filter. It attracts those who are already vulnerable, already carrying emotional weight, and then amplifies it. Think about it. A place with no sound. No direction. No external stimuli. Just your thoughts echoing louder and louder until they become unbearable. Now have the possibility that you're not alone with those thoughts. There are stories from hikers who entered the forest out of curiosity, and quickly lost their sense of direction. Not because they weren't prepared, but because the forest itself seems to distort perception. Compasses malfunction. GPS devices become unreliable. Trails disappear. Some people mark their paths with tape, tying ribbons to trees so they can find their way back. But there are cases where even those markers lead nowhere, or worse, lead deeper into the forest. And then there are the objects. Abandoned tents. Personal belongings. Photographs. Notes. Evidence of people who were there, and then suddenly, weren't. Some of these notes have been recovered, and they reveal something deeply unsettling. Many describe a feeling of being drawn into the forest. Not forced, not controlled, but gently pulled, like an invisible current guiding them deeper and deeper. One note described it as the forest calling. Now, whether you believe in supernatural explanations or not, there is something undeniably disturbing about the consistency of these accounts. Different people. Different backgrounds. Same experience. A growing sense of unease. A loss of direction. A feeling of presence. And this is where things become even more disturbing. Because some researchers believe that Aokigahara's environment itself might contribute to these experiences. The forest sits on hardened lava from an ancient volcanic eruption. This creates a unique geological structure, with caves, uneven terrain, and magnetic irregularities. These conditions can interfere with navigation tools, and even affect human perception. But here's the problem with that explanation. It accounts for disorientation, but not for the emotional intensity. Not for the overwhelming sense of dread. Not for the reports of voices, or shadows, or the feeling of being watched. Science explains part of the story, but not all of it. And that gap, that unknown, is where the legends take hold. Some believe the forest is haunted by the spirits of those who died there. That their emotions, their pain, their final moments, somehow linger, creating an atmosphere that affects anyone who enters. Others believe it's something even older. Long before the forest became known for tragedy, it was associated with a practice called abasut, where elderly or sick family members were allegedly abandoned in remote areas during times of famine. Whether or not this actually happened on a large scale is debated, but the legend remains. A forest tied to abandonment. To suffering. To death. Over centuries, those stories evolve. They layer on top of each other. And eventually, they create something new. A place that feels cursed. And in the age of the internet, these stories spread faster than ever. Forums, videos, and anonymous posts began linking Aokigahara to darker concepts, including the idea of secret groups, hidden rituals, and connections to the so-called Ninth Circle network. There is no verified evidence of such an organization operating in the forest. But the rumors persist. And the reason they persist is because of how perfectly the forest fits the narrative. Isolation. Darkness. Disappearance. It's the kind of place where anything could happen, and no one would know. Which brings us to the most unsettling question of all. What if the forest doesn't just attract people who are already struggling? What if it changes them? There are accounts of people who entered the forest feeling normal, only to experience sudden, intense emotional shifts. Panic. Despair. Confusion. Some managed to leave, and later described the experience as if something was pushing them toward a decision they didn't originally intend to make. Others were not as fortunate. And that raises a possibility that is hard to ignore. Whether through psychological influence, environmental factors, or something we don't yet understand, the forest has an effect on the human mind. A powerful effect. One that turns silence into pressure. Isolation into fear. Thought into obsession. And if that's true, then Aokigahara is not just a place. It's an experience. One that changes you the moment you step inside. So now, think about this. If a place can influence your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, at what point does it stop being just a location and start becoming something else entirely? Something that interacts with you. Something that responds. Something that pulls you in. And if that's the case, then the idea of the ninth circle might not be as far-fetched as it seems. Because maybe the deepest level of darkness isn't a physical place at all. Maybe it's a state of mind. A condition. One that can be triggered, amplified, and sustained by the right environment. And maybe Aokigahara is one of the few places on Earth where that environment exists. Now I want you to think carefully about what you've heard. Do you believe the forest is simply a tragic location shaped by human actions? Or do you think there is something more? Something that can't be explained by science alone? If you were given the chance, would you walk into that forest? Would you trust your own mind, in a place where so many others lost control of theirs? Or would you stay away, knowing that some places are better left unexplored? Let me know what you think. Because the more we question these things, the closer we get to understanding them. And if you found this story interesting, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more deep and disturbing investigations like this. Like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes, the scariest stories aren't the ones we imagine. They're the ones that are real. And sometimes, they're still waiting for us.